Previously on the Angling Wisdom Podcast.
If I was going to tell an angler for wisdom, what's the most important thing in fishing of all species? Learning topography, bottom line. But your eyes and your brains, I just really don't think a lot of people use it as much because you get lost in all the other stuff. You're getting me all jacked up, Patrick. Like,
it's part of the fun, man. We're trying to pass on some of your wisdom here.
Don't set goals of other people's goals. Set your own goals, and it's going to be easier baby steps. That if your biggest fish is 2-pounder, you just want a 3-pounder, and then you get a 4-pounder, and those are trophies for you until you get up to a position to start if you want to.
Well, it's cool because, like, talking to you, and then I've got some fishing mentors that, I mean, they're in their 80s, right? They don't worry about that stuff. They're just like, we're going to go do this. And they know, right? Because all they experience, like, this is what we got to do today to produce a fish. And then they teach me. And that's just a privilege for me because I love learning it. So I got to ask you this next one. So what about bass at night? So I was talking and the reason I'm asking this, I had a fisheries biologist tell me to my face not long ago that bass will not eat at night.
Full of
I was like, they eat at night because I've caught them at night trying to catch tiger muskies, and they hit really big baits at night. It's pretty exciting.
The guy, I hate to say this, and I call him out right now. It's bad. The guy he's not a fisherman. And here's the problem and this is not knocking it, is your education is only as good as the environment that you put yourself in to get that education. I don't care if it's school right now. If you put yourself in a school and they're only going to teach you one thought from either politics to religion or mathematics, if that's all you have to learn in with that bubble, you're lost. And that's the sad part of where our society is going. If you have Pavlov's dog, if you're watching fish in an aquarium, inside a room that doesn't fluctuate with barometric pressures and storms and cold fronts and dirt. I want to see one of those biologists get one of their tanks that have all those big fish in it and just go throw 10 pounds of mud in it. First of all, see if the fish die. And then if they don't die, then with them not even being able to see the fish, then tell us how they're reacting to the bait. Okay. That's right. The difference for us. So I fished nights for years, and I fished tournaments at night. And when I did it at the time, I was throwing big baits, and I fished by myself in tournament situations because there's nobody out there. First of all, it was a learning curve that I had to put things together that I couldn't be interrupted by people because it was such a hard. I donated tens of thousands of dollars to learn throwing big baits at night, and doing it all the time during the day. Sometimes you fish all night, one night tournament, and then the next day you have a day tournament, and then you have a night tournament. It goes back and forth. Man, is he so wrong. There are two different breeds. There is a day bass and there is a night bass. And it's no different than going down to, when I worked at the fire department, you go down in some suburbs and people come out at 10 o'clock at night and they're up till 4 a.m. And then when the daylight came out, they're like vampires and they go back to sleep and you don't ever see them. And that group of people never meet with that group of people. They never intertwine. There's times where I fished the lower lake, and I know there's another guy, and I'm going to give him a shout out, Greg Silks. He's one of the old school swim bait fishermen too. And I watched him, and he would fish at night and catch monster 10-pounders. And he'd mark the fish. He'd put a little hole in their dorsal, he'd mark them. I fished the same lake for 20 years. I never caught one of the fish in a small impoundment that he caught at night. I never caught one during the day, but I would catch them at night. I did this for years. Walleyes, I know anglers, Doc Holliday, there's some guys that fished up north. They throw big swim baits from the shore. We're talking 8 to 12 inches, catching 10 to 12 pound walleyes at their feet with swim baits, exactly the same way we do the largemouth bass, right at her feet at night. But then when that sun comes up, those fish go in it because they're prone to fish and feed a different way. And that's the difference is there's night people and there's bass people, and there's, day people and there's day bass, they're just like, they're two different realms. And sometimes you'll get them to converge at daybreak and sunset. That's your convergent. But then all of a sudden there'll be a dead time. And then a different thing comes out. So, but night fishing, I've caught big fish trolling because open water, out in the middle of nowhere, 500 yards offshore with a swim bait, catching tanks on a swim bait, the same way I could do at low light, cloudy, windy conditions, post frontal April with the rain misting, and catch 13 pounders in the day. And those aren't the same fish, but they're the same areas, which this is what keys you in. Where did the bait go? What did the bait look like? And how did they position, as like you said, to bring those fish in to feed? Right. So that's what you got to think about, So yes.
I had to ask you that because I'm like, some of the biggest bass I've ever caught were at night.
And they're different. And night bass are different. You know what? You want to go out night fishing? You put a Norman deep little land on. You get a buzz bait. You get a bio buzz bait. Fish Lab bio buzz bait. Clack, clack, clack. As slow as you can do it. Clack, clack, clack. You do that. You put a rat on night. Okay, that's your top water. Two baits. You put a big worm on, a big Senko, and a big jig. There's your bottom baits. And your mid is your big single midnight special scraper Colorado, spinner bait, a chatterbait, biggest one you could find that has a great silhouette, or a crankbait. Yep. Okay. Any lake in the world.
The biggest one that I caught at night, I was in Utah and I was fishing for tiger muskies, and I threw this. It was a spinner bait that had like the Panther Martin style blades on it. They called it there was a guy named Bob Todd who was out of Colorado that made them. And it had this nice slow roll action, put out a ton of vibration. I was just slow rolling that thing, man. And just boom, he just slammed it. So hold on. We're going to pause for 1 second because my laptop came unplugged and it's about to die. So hold on 1 second. Let me get back in.
We're pulling off all the power. We're pulling the juice off this, guys. Hey, guys, make sure you guys follow and check in with Angling Wisdom with Patrick. I've known Patrick for quite a few years, and it's really nice. There are a lot of people out there. It's an ego-driven industry. It's all about them. And to find somebody that really wants to go find anglers for all different species, to bring them in, to give everybody a voice, this is the difference between what Patrick's doing and a lot of other shows is, we're going to talk baits and we're going to talk sponsors because that's how, we survive in this industry, and that, none of us could do what we do without the right sponsors. But when it comes to the knowledge and throwing that other stuff out of the way, that there's only a special few out there. So definitely follow Angler Wisdom. And like I said, if you have something really interesting or something that you saw that you've never heard about, reach out to Patrick and tell him, and maybe he can get you on the show, because I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I think I know enough, but I'm still learning every day. You get somebody else out there that, I listen to them because they're going to do a lot of, like I said, aha moments for me and go, oh, that's why that happened. So just keep that in mind when you guys listen to podcasts and, these Zoom calls and everything else, that you're going to find people that have really good information if you want to listen to them, or if you just want to hear a bunch of jokes and ha and sponsor plugs, go listen to them. But I don't think you're going to be any better fisherman after it.
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words. Really, it's like I was telling people, because with this show, it's all about the why for me. And the why for me is I want to get better, but I also want to see other people get better, because there's so much more out there than just having the high-end gear, having the forward-facing sonar, all those things. It's really about understanding the fish, why they do what they do, so that you can just be better at your craft. And this is what I do for fun. Like this is enjoyable to me. It's enjoyable to take people fishing. It's enjoyable to see my kids catching fish. And it's enjoyable to help spread knowledge and meet super cool people like you and just learn. I just love it. And the day that you say you know everything is the day that you've forgotten everything, because nobody knows it all, right? And I know so many guys, I'll talk at the boat ramp, and they'll just be like, no, man, you can't do that. I know it. It's like, well, okay, and I would just smile. But the guys that are like willing to listen and really latch into it and be like, oh, well, tell me more about that. Like, that's when you start to really up your game and you learn. Because I mean, I went through a little phase there where I thought I knew everything, and I got humbled pretty hard by a couple of anglers, out on the water, and I was like, wow, I don't know as much as these guys. I want to learn from these guys.
I'll tell you one thing that I have noticed, and people can agree with this or not, and I'm going to give a lot of leeway on this. Everybody has the right knowledge, because once you have confidence, and if they've gone out and caught fish a certain way, and they could reproduce it a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and it's consistent for them, then it's workable knowledge. So everybody that you're going to talk to, or every angler out there that's listening to this show, or their friends, everybody has good knowledge. But as, I don't want to say an elite angler, or somebody that really wants to be in that 1% that takes things to a whole new level, those anglers are the ones that are able to take everything that they've heard, learned, seen, and be able at a specific moment when they could start putting an ingredient together for a cast and go, I'll take that, and I'm going to catch a fish. Or this time right now with this, and this shadow is compressing, and this is an incoming shadow tide, and here's the boat positioning, and I'm going to bring it into this funnel, and I'm going to do a directional change. This one guy, this is 100%, this is going to be the way to do it. Boom, you do it that way. And then the next spot you go to is like, that guy doesn't know crap. I got to go back over to the guy, because now I'm in a position for flipping and pitching, and I got to punch through, and it's full moon, and the crawdads have come out, and they're molting, and they're climbing up the stems. So the bait forage in 3 to 4 foot of water underneath a mat is underneath the top part of the mat, because that's where the crawdads are holding. They're not down below. So when I punch through, when I bring my bait back up underneath the mat, I have to not high stick. I got to be ready for the hook set there. This is what I'm saying, is there's so much knowledge that everything is good out there, but a really good angler is the one that can pick the right elements or the ingredients. Like Bobby Barrack always said, you're building the cake. It's right ingredients. It's putting the right ingredients together at that moment to build that cake, to make it happen. And then it's over. You got to do it again. And, I know I get talking, Patrick, you're going to go, this guy's full of, but
No.
here's another thing I do in tournament fishing. And I don't know if this will relate to anglers who just love to fish, but I think we talked about it a long time ago too. A good friend of mine, Mike Ross, his dad was a shooter for the Olympics and for the military. And I shot a lot of trap and skeet, back in the day, competing with the fire department, the Olympics, and doing all this stuff. And he got me off guard years ago. This is I've been retired now. This is over 35 years ago. And he says, hey, I told him, I said, hey, I want to win all these gold medals shooting. And he goes, okay. He goes, how many tournaments to shoot? And I go, 1. And he goes, oh, what are you shooting? I'm like, I got 25 skeet and 25, sporting clay, and did, all this stuff. And he goes, long story short, it finally clicked on me when I said, oh my gosh, I'm shooting 500 tournaments, because that's how many birds there were. There's 500 tournaments, 500 birds to shoot in this whole tournament. Each bird was a tournament. And once I understood that, not only could I play chess better knowing my right moves, but I could finish my right move by finishing that moment to win that one tournament. So in fishing, when I go out fishing with my buddy Tim, we don't go out there looking for 5 fish. And it's weird. We fish a tournament. We fish 5 tournaments in a day. Our first fish getting in the boat, no matter what, we just need to get 1 fish in the boat. Once we get that, okay, that's cleared. We could clean the slate. Then we go to the next fish. That's our next tournament. Right. So we win 5 tournaments. We got a limit. And then we might have extra tournaments in the day, because then we have to call to get bigger fish. And that's my mindset. And that puts me in a whole different thing, that I'm never slacking. Every moment is a tournament. And when you could put yourself in that, and like I said, I know I'm a weird duck and I just see things completely different than most people, but it works for me. There might be a different path for you, but it's still going to come down to the right ingredients. You know, learn to play chess, get rid of the water, learn your structure and cover, and then understand bait fish element, because that's basically where the bait's at, the fish are at. So
yep.
You get me all jacked up, dude.
I know. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch over to the bonus show. So those of you who are watching this on YouTube, there is going to be a bonus show. You'll have to go to anglingwisdom.com to find it. So go check that out. But we're going to break over to that, and then we're going to talk about some just kind of quick fire things that are going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you'll tune into that. So Bill, are you ready for the bonus?
All right. If you want to hear the rest of the show with Bill Siemantel, the bonus show, you got to go to patreon.com/anglingwisdom, and you can catch the rest of that show. I'll also have a link on our website, but you do need to join the Patreon group to get the rest of it for the bonus show. And believe me, you are not going to want to miss it. There's a lot of great tips, and he even busts some myths. So head on over to patreon.com/anglingwisdom for the rest of this show. Thanks for listening to the Angling Wisdom Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please go to patreon.com/anglingwisdom to sign up for bonus content or just to show your support for the show. You can also subscribe wherever you are listening to or watching this podcast. You can follow us on the socials by searching for Angling Wisdom on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks again to PK Lures for sponsoring this show. You can go to pklure.com and use the code WISDOM to receive 20% off of your next order. And of course, you can always go to anglingwisdom.com for more fishing content. This is Patrick Edwards signing off. I hope to see you out on the water.